I've alternated having a Paula Abdul song stuck in my head with Be Thou My Vision. And those two things could not be more different.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's a little weird.
It's like, yeah, I'm going crazy. Going
All
a
right.
little bit nuts.
Alrighty then.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
Let's get
Let's do
cracking.
this.
So,
Fine.
hello, and welcome to the Nerd Rage, episode 189. I don't know why I'm playing with a clothespin, but that's a thing I'm doing right now. And
uh,
meanwhile, my
it's gonna be a
co-host
good
here
night.
is
It's gonna be a good night.
she's lost a battle with humidity. So it's gonna be a good night, as she said. You didn't have to make
Yeah.
it worse.
I mean, can you really at this point?
I mean, you kind of did. You floofed it more.
Uh,
There was
okay.
definitely a you definitely had a tiny murder floof vibe going on there.
All right. Enough about my hair that is trying to get its own zip code.
Too late.
I'm
I'm gonna be the first person to mail to send a parcel to it.
gonna be pulling Amazon boxes out of there.
Yes, that's sounds weird and hilarious. Anyway, so admittedly, we are not super prepared for this week's episode. As it stands, we're already recording like half a week late. Um, but we're gonna make do. This is gonna be definitely gonna be one of those stranger and more random episodes. Not exactly an uncommon event, but
Yeah.
we should
And
talk some.
I mean, it's still kind of stormy here, so my connection's not the best. You're all blurry to me right now. I can't see you.
Stormy Daniels.
No.
Stormy Daniels and her creepy porn lawyer, as
I
Tucker
have,
Carlson's so fond of calling him.
yeah, I've had just about enough discussion about porn today. Thank you very much.
Yes, I saw that. That was, I even talked a bit on that thread, didn't I? I usually avoid doing that, but even I was like, okay, yeah, this has kind of entered the realm of distasteful. So,
Oh, yeah. I mean, essentially, there's this idea that if people want to do something like produce porn, then you shouldn't feel bad about consuming it
mm-hmm.
because that's how logic works.
Yeah, but there's definitely not like there's a whole bunch of other aspects in here that are very, very important, like honor and morality.
You know, just general self improvement. You know?
I mean, I'm pretty terrible at that, but anyway.
uh, and the argument that it's human nature and you can't fight it. Like, okay. I mean, there a lot of things are human nature.
Mm-hmm.
To be jealous is human nature. To be petty or wrathful or even lazy. It's all human nature. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that we should, just give
Those
in
sound
to it.
wow, those sound really familiar. Almost like there's 7 of them.
Right? It's. I
Fascinating.
mean, I know I've said it before, but it's the 7 deadly sins, not because necessarily they're just so much worse, but because it's so easy to just kind of fall into it.
And of course, if you
It's
really, really think about it, all sins are rooted in the 7 deadly sins.
right?
You know, they're literally the umbrella under which all other sins fall. Because all sin, of course, is deadly.
Yes.
I
So,
don't know what this look was. But there you go.
and I mean, there's there's an argument to be made, even for a secular viewpoint, just in the fact that porn doesn't, it's not like beneficial.
Mm-hmm. It's not ennobling. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't bring positive things into your life. At best, it's always going to be. It's going to be like a neutral force in your life. But in almost all
Right.
cases, it's always going to be a negative force on some level. It's going to be
Yeah.
a negative for someone in the equation, whether it's the viewer, the
Yeah.
producer.
Just somewhere along the line. And generally it's at several points along the line. But I mean, it like you said, it's not ennobling. It's, and I can just hear the arguments that yes, it does benefit me. I enjoy watching it, whatever. But I mean, honestly, that kind of really short-lived pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
not even with another person, but with yourself, is, um,
Oof.
I mean, really, is that actually beneficial? I just don't see it. It's, you're not becoming a better lover. You're not, learning how to interact with another person. It,
Not that I've ever learned that,
even
but anyway,
even just considering the most secular aspects of it, it's not helping you.
no.
But yeah, whatever. You wrote a thing. People should go read the thing and stop making horrible excuses for behaviors that just should not be given the kind of fanfare that they are.
Sorry, what was the hand gesture you just did? And people should read the thing, yo. Like you did that. It was just so. It was just so.
I'm growling again. I'm growling tonight because I can. Sorry. I'm kind of frustrated. Kind of frustrated with myself because I haven't had time to really get into the topics. So I'm just winging it. And I'm frustrated because my hair is becoming sentient and trying to leave my head.
Really, the funny bit is that I'm never prepared, so I mean, it's not like I ever delve deep. All right, so I guess we
I'm
should talk
also
about a bit of.
frustrated because this whiskey is just not that good. It really isn't.
Oh yeah, that's right. I had meant to.
Anyhow,
I had
I
meant to
might
buy my.
growl again. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so new topic.
No, you just reminded me. I meant to buy whiskey for my birthday, but oh well.
Oh.
I can still do it. I literally, I work in a store with a liquor aisle, so
Wait, you have liquor at your store?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Good stuff?
I don't know if we have good stuff because I'm not really an alcohol aficionado in any way, shape, or form. But
It's just crazy to me. Our grocery stores only have beer and like that the wine that's like Boone's
oh
Farm.
yeah, yeah, we have more than that. It's a small aisle, but we actually have a full on liquor license. So, and we
What?
almost lost it like 8 months ago because one of our customer service managers inadvertently didn't check a minor's ID, and
Ooh.
and that gave us a strike. So now the state board is keeping an eye on us. So it's like, ooh, we don't want to lose all those sales because we make a lot of money from
Just
liquor.
amazed. Like I could go buy ground beef and liquor at the same place.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yep.
Huh. How about that? Do you sell it on Sundays? Because we don't do that here.
Yes, that was just enacted into law like 4 months ago in Indiana. So on Sundays from I think 12 to 8 p.m., liquor can be sold in the state of Indiana now.
Oh, what? I'm coming to visit.
I mean, you said you were going to do that anyway, so.
Yeah, it was. But now it's going to be like, hey, you know what site I want to see? The Walmart with the liquor. never seen one before.
I'm astounded. I'm astounded that you're that into this. Yes.
Be like, let's go visit Osei at work.
Yeah, let's not. Let's not do that.
Oh, that would
Let's.
be so much fun, wouldn't it?
I'm sure.
Explaining me to all your coworkers and
I,
boss.
I'd rather not. So yeah, this thing here obviously escaped from a detention block on the Death Star.
Ah, yes.
And yes,
Now I have plans.
that was a completely
That'd be
intentional
fun.
Star Wars reference.
Oh, I got it.
Anyway, all right.
I
So
don't care.
because it's the middle of the week after we should have done this episode, I guess we should talk about some of last week's news.
Ugh. Okay,
Like,
well, there was that big Nike ad.
let's not talk about some of that last week's news. No,
Huh?
I said let's not talk about some of last week's news then, because I am bored to death of
But,
that.
but, there have been so many amazing memes born of it.
Yes, this is true.
That has been a beauty to behold. The meme crop was bountiful this year. The internet was good to us.
Sometimes, anyway, sometimes memes are good. I will not deny it. It is also incredibly rare, and most memes are boring and stupid. But sometimes they are good.
Those memes were the best things to come of that whole kerfuffle. The memes were amazing.
Okay, yes, we get it. We get it. We understand. You like the memes.
I should really like compile a best of list because there's
Yes,
really good ones.
because there aren't enough clickbait sites on the internet that don't do that already.
But they don't follow me.
Yes, and let's ensure that a bunch of people won't follow you.
I looked through those lists. They had some on there that were like, good try. But I mean like a best of. Okay? Best of.
It's gonna be all the Lord of the Rings ones. Just watch.
So anyhow, really, of course you have your divide among, left and right politics where it's like,
Right.
oh, Kaepernick, he's amazing because he stands for whatever, Black Lives
Kneels.
Matter.
He kneels for night for
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter.
Okay, so he doesn't literally stand, but whatever. Um, and then everybody else on the other side who's all like, screw Nike, I'm gonna burn my stuff because that's just dumb.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was. Not sure what to make of that one. Like I
They
it's
already
like
have your
Nike.
money.
Thank you, there's your money.
I mean, I'm actually wearing Nikes right now, like for real.
I mean, it's reasonable, I think, to say that you're never gonna buy from Nike again, but destroying the products you've already paid for, it's like
Right.
counterintuitive.
And I honestly don't think people are going to be looking at my feed all that much. So it's not like I'm a walking advertisement for Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I totally support this dude that did an ad because I have Nikes on my feet. I don't think that's, how most people,
Yes, not how it's gonna work.
you know.
Not
Not how it's good.
not until like 2050 when they invent like billboard shoes and and a holographic advertisement shows up, whenever you take a step. And then finally we'll all become
Yeah.
communists just because capitalism has wrought some of the gaudiest garbage on the planet.
uh, so, yeah. I mean, so it was a dumb move by Nike to
Yeah.
choose someone who was essentially just a polarizing figure. I mean, the whole premise behind him kneeling is just absolute horse crap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that that black people are being targeted, that there's like this systematic racism in law enforcement, and I mean, the data just doesn't back it up. The facts do not support the premise. So you can, just scream about injustice and ignore actual evidence, and cherry pick little. I mean, even the stuff that they cherry pick is not a good example of what they
Mm-hmm.
want to prove.
Right.
I mean, that's what blows my mind. Like, I know you could find examples
Mm-hmm.
if you tried.
But they
And those
always.
cherry picked examples would actually stand up under scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
But the examples that this whole movement have been based on are just really poor examples for what they want to talk about.
And this is a thing that the black community and the activists within the black community always do, is that they always choose the absolute worst standard bearers for these kinds of debates, you know. And it all started, well, it didn't start necessarily, but the modern movement, as it were, started really, if you think about it, with Trayvon Martin. And
Yeah.
they're always choosing like standard bearers who are of like really dubious moral character, and like or like obviously up to no good.
Right. That whole hands up, don't shoot narrative
Mm-hmm.
was absolute bumpkus.
Yep.
So, I mean, you could find some cases that were legitimately, I would say, an example of what you're trying to prove.
Mm-hmm.
But I, I cannot brain right now. I'm sorry. I'm searching for my words. It's just awful and whatever. Um, it has been a long day.
Hmm.
So you could definitely do better with your examples. And then I think you would have a better chance of convincing people without just bullying them into, oh, you're a racist if you don't support this,
Mm-hmm.
because that's basically what happens. You have all of these idiots out here that are like, oh my gosh, I feel so guilty because I'm white and I don't suffer. And then, they're like all on board with it.
Mm-hmm. And then proceed not to suffer more. Which I mean,
Yeah,
I think is really the most amusing part of all of this is the fact that like people like to like make big flashy symbols and signs and whatnot to do the protests at the national anthem and whatnot. But at the end of the day, they're not the people who actually need the help. They're not the people who actually are encountering any of these things. I mean, of course, it's the whole absurdity of Nike's ad. This idea that Colin Kaepernick sacrificed anything at all. Um,
right. I mean, and that I think is the linchpin behind the blowback over
mm-hmm.
that ad. He sacrificed everything. No, I mean he barely sacrificed anything at all. You
Yeah,
could kind of make a case for a little bit of sacrifice.
but let's be honest, he probably wasn't going to have much of a career in the NFL anyway. He came out a lot better being a dickhead. But
Yep.
and he was definitely being a dickhead. This idea that kneeling during the national anthem is somehow going to make a difference, for how the
Right.
black community is policed is completely ridiculous. It doesn't help anyone, and it honestly just makes more people angry at you than gets their attention. Because that's what a proper approach. Because that's what a real protest does. A real protest sways hearts and minds. It's not going to sway every heart and mind, but assuming that the cause of the protest is righteous, righteous or correct
Right.
or anything or anything of that caliber, it's probably going to sway more hearts and minds positively than negatively. Just look at the civil rights movement, and the sit-ins and whatnot, and the marches
Yeah.
and and what have you. It's like that swayed more minds in a positive direction than in a negative direction, compared to this, which is definitely just annoying a lot of people who really just want to watch a game of football.
you know, People who are like, please, for the love of God, keep your politics away from this one thing that I enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
can't
mean,
luck out on
that's
that.
definitely where you need to do all your grandstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, if you want to address the issue of policing in any kind of community, then you should build a relationship with police in that community.
Yep.
You should open up you know, an area. I hate to say a safe space, but you should really kind of bring people together in a way and in a time that they feel like they can speak up and share those ideas. Like if people honestly feel like um, they're being abused in some way in their
Mm-hmm.
community by the authority there, then they need to be able to tell them
Yep.
and have a dialogue about it. That I think would do more good than wearing, the pig socks and the Che Guevara shirt and
Mm-hmm.
then getting down on your knee and being a butt. But, actually doing something requires some effort.
An actual sacrifice. Ha ha!
I mean, sacrificing your time when you're not sitting in front of a camera.
Yep.
Um, and I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the positions that they seem to take issue with are positions that people are elected to.
Mm-hmm.
Mayors and city council members and, chief of police and sheriff and, district attorney. And I mean, all of these people that kind of make the calls concerning law enforcement, you have some power over who gets into those positions.
Yep.
Like there's recourse before the abuse happens. And then if abuse does happen, you still have that avenue that you can pursue, like getting them out of office or getting someone in office who will police them better, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it requires actual effort.
Yep. Yep.
And it's silly to say that all police officers act a certain way. If you have examples of police acting a certain way within a community, then perhaps the problem is with those police officers in that community.
Mm-hmm.
It does not mean that all police officers in every community across the country act the same way.
Yep.
But what do I know? I'm white. People shouldn't listen to me. I should feel bad for being born without melanin.
You should. You definitely should. My goodness, that reminds me of a tweet I saw earlier, where it was like someone complaining about like some black person complaining that like white people want to be like us, y'all, with a picture of melatonin. And it claimed that they were selling melanin. It's a bottle of melatonin, and this idiot thought it was melanin.
I didn't know you could sleep better than I could. What?
Yep.
That's some kind of rest privilege you've got there, bud.
It's apparently that's not what this person thought, since this person thought that they were selling skin pigmentation in a bottle.
Oh my gosh. Mm.
Speaking of sports ball and melanin,
Oh, yeah. Well, I think this was about the gender
more than
more than the
gender, yes,
melon.
but yes, it was. You can't really use the melanin part here because, of course, the actual champion in this case is actually half Haitian. But yes, the U.S. Open. where we got treated to one of the most egotistical people in the world of sports, period,
Oh yeah.
completely stealing the show from the actual person who won.
So what are your thoughts about this?
Um, I think that Serena Williams needs to go away. Um, she is well past her prime, especially given that her prime was in the late '90s and early 2000s. Um, and yeah, that's basically long and short of everything I think there. But
I think it was shameful how the winner was treated by both the audience and the announcers.
mm-hmm,
That was absolutely shameful. They should all feel really bad about themselves right now
yep,
and for a very long time hereafter.
and the president of the women's tennis organization, I think it was, wasn't it? Or like they focused all their attention on Williams instead of Naomi Osaka, and
Yeah.
that's all completely ridiculous. Especially since Osaka did something that was impressive, being the first, being the
The first
first.
Japanese, and she's very young.
She's only 20. Um,
I,
and was that?
I looked into the claims of sexism on this, and the umpire that was calling it, he's actually known to be a strict stickler for the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been cases in the past where he would be calling um, a men's tournament, and one of the men would complain that he felt that there was a bias and that he was being unfairly treated
Mm-hmm.
because the guy would actually, he would call it, he would penalize it, and he wouldn't just let it go. He's known in the tennis world as being a stickler for the rules. So,
Mm-hmm.
knowing this, Miss Williams decides to approach this particular competition with full of piss and vinegar and attitude, and then she's gonna call him a cheater and tell him that he's wrong for how he's calling the game and throw her racket down. And I mean, all of these things are, I mean, these are all actions that she knows will be penalized.
Yep.
So, I mean, she did it anyways, and she knew that he was one of the judges that wouldn't just let it go. And then she screamed sexism, because of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
Because
actually
because of course
puzzling this
sexism
out
is at
earlier.
of course sexism is at play in the women's bracket of a tournament. Right.
Right? Especially when this umpire is known to have called the same exact what is it, infractions in previous games against men.
Yep.
Now, when you make the charge of sexism, you want one of two things. You either want, the idea is that, well, if it's going to be called against me and I'm a woman, then it should be called against men, and it hasn't been. So, okay, then maybe there are other umpires that are letting things go and they should call them. However, there were no men in this competition. So the charge of sexism really holds no water
Mm-hmm.
in that context. Or you're saying that, well, previously men would get away with acting in this manner, and therefore I, as a woman, should get away with acting in this manner. In which case, I have to question, why do you even have rules? Because the rules were broken.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is this just street ball, or are there rules? Because if there are rules, then you broke the rules, you get penalized for breaking the rules. That's how sports works.
Yep. Otherwise, you don't have a fair competition. And then what's the point at all?
I mean, honestly, just people annoy me. I think I might actually be sassier when I'm drinking.
You think? Anyway,
Well,
but yeah, so I'll tell you right now though, but this whole U.S. Open thing, I just feel bad for Osaka because she doesn't, because this should have been a moment for her and not a moment, like to cause her so much grief.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
like, it's like, let's hope she's made of pretty stern stuff because I bet you that most people would just walk away from tennis after this point. After effectively
I
being
mean,
humiliated on internet, on the international stage.
right. Yeah. And I mean, in a moment that she should have been, feeling at her best, like she had accomplished something against someone that she actually held in high esteem, that she
Mm-hmm.
could really enjoy that moment of having overcome something in her mind that was, a worthy adversary that she might not have even considered that she would have beat. But yeah, and then to just be stuck there listening to people boo and talk about how disappointed they were. And I mean, the poor girl was in tears.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's absolutely horrible. It is, at all levels. Serena, the announcers, the if, who did you say it was? The president.
Yeah, I think it's the women's tennis organization. I think.
Okay, I guess, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call her an official. Um, you know, the crowd, just at all levels, there was an absolute shameful display of sportsmanship.
Mm-hmm. As in, there was none.
Right.
Mark Stein wrote a
It
thing about that
was.
earlier. And it's like he was completely right. Like this is a thing that we used to call sportsmanship. Before 2000, we used to call behavior like this the behavior of a bad sport, and now it's just apparently Williams is the victim here, and it's just I don't know. I guess it's just another sign of civilization's decline, huh? We can't get away from politics when we want to watch football, and we are perfectly 100% accepting of people being completely boorish and what's the word I'm thinking
Entitled.
here? Entitled. Yeah, boorish and entitled. In the
Speaking of
aftermath of
entitled
defeat.
sore losers, how about those protesters at the Kavanaugh hearing?
I mean, it's apropos. Yes.
It really is.
I mean, honestly, eh. It's like they weren't even that interesting. They were just boring. It's just.
I lost track of the number of people who had to be thrown out and the number of people who were arrested. That picture's been circulating of the free bleeder. That's so gross.
I didn't see that.
That's just disgusting.
I'm glad I didn't see
Yes.
that because I've seen those. I've seen pictures of free bleeders before, and I'm just like, wow, that's not hygienic
Well, yeah,
whatsoever.
this was like streaming down her legs, and she was screaming as someone was trying to haul her away. And ew, why would you do that anywhere ever for any reason at all? For the love of God, why?
Because
Just
they're idiots who don't
ew.
love God. Duh.
Yeah, so gross. And
Yeah.
apparently, that is supposed to be some kind of statement for abortion.
Or reproductive
I,
freedom or something like that.
you know?
Honestly, it's just baffling that they think that these are like meaningful statements and behaviors. Like I mean, this has been a problem for years, of course, now at this point. But
Yeah.
it's like they've gone from doing things that are meaningful and get people's attention and change hearts and minds, and they've gone to this. And it's honestly, and people dressing up as handmaids and everything, and
Oh yeah.
it's just, it's just,
got like that discount roll of red felt at the
Mm-hmm.
craft store, and then they showed up in their little robes and their cute little hats.
It's
Jeez. I mean, honestly, though, what is wrong with people? It's not like the world is going to change overnight.
mm-hmm. You're gonna see
That's
it coming.
not how our system of government works.
Yep.
That's not how it works.
I mean, there's so many ways you could take it. From the very beginning, it's like you just look at how completely ineffectual these protests are. They look completely ridiculous and absurd,
They are
and
really
they're
ridiculous.
and they're debasing what is otherwise supposed to be a noble institution. You know, the
Oh
United
yeah.
States Senate. Ignoring the lack of nobility among its members. Generally speaking, you assume there's supposed to be a sense of decorum and a sense of professionalism and a sense of history even when you go to these places, just like if you went to the English Parliament or wherever else.
Right.
And these people are completely debasing it with their antics and stupidity. But
You
then
know what
after,
this is? This is victim cosplay. They aren't actual victims, but they're really pretending to be.
uh, yep.
I think I made my hair bigger. Hang on.
But then leaving that to one side, leaving all that to one side though, there's also just the fact that they're hyperbolic, like so hyperbolic and overreacting to literally, to a Supreme Court nomination. Like it's like, I mean, on one hand, of course, like Supreme Court nominations can make a huge difference since the Supreme Court is now vastly overpowered in the American system. But
All right.
But even leaving that aside, because I think we can assume that a good 50% of them have not thought that far ahead, it's odds are that Kavanaugh's not gonna be is not gonna be going around destroying all their rights. It's like listen, there's a whole bunch of people in that court who wouldn't do that
Right.
anyway. I don't think
They're
your
about to
parents.
take a death ray to every abortion clinic in the country.
I mean, I mean,
I
I
mean,
can. I mean,
it's
I could
like
get behind
the
that.
minute that Betsy DeVos became uh, the Secretary of Education, suddenly, like every child in the country is going to believe in young Earth creationism, and they're going to fail all their tests because they're not going to be able to keep up with the rest of the world in terms of
Like, because we're doing so well already.
right. I mean, it's just like they go from zero to hysteria like that. It is amazing.
Honestly, they get
Everything
divine.
is like, oh my gosh, I mean, Trump and Pence are elected into office, and suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to round up the
Hmm.
gangs. What? When did this happen? It's been 2 years. There's not a single concentration camp. I was promised concentration camps. What is happening?
I mean, I was gonna say, it's like the left hysteria is so boring and trite and overdone at this point. Like Trump could probably like nominate like Heinrich Himmler to become Health and Human Services Secretary, and I just wouldn't bite an eyelash because I just wouldn't care anymore.
I can't wait to see how long this stays up on YouTube.
I mean, yeah, this is going to be my campaign platform when I run for office in 2024. I'll bring Heinrich Himmler back. I'll clone him, and even makes the Fatherland great again. But I'm not sure that was that funny. But
Oh my gosh. it's the perfect it's the perfect mirror to this absolute hysteria on the left right now though. It really is. Like how much more bizarre and absurd can anything get at this point? There you go.
I mean, I could always clone Rudolph Hess too.
Oh my gosh. It's I can't even. I can't even.
Anyway,
Madness. Mad.
yeah. So Yeah, I look forward to seeing Justice Kavanaugh on the court. I'm sure we'll be mildly disappointed with him at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there's always this hysteria, and then it's like, they're actually kind of tepid.
Yeah.
you know, they didn't go quite as extreme as you predicted.
And have you ever noticed that justices like to shift left over time unless they're like diehards?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, Kennedy, O'Connor.
Interestingly, though, some of the most conservative justices over the course of their careers have been people of color. And yet we're told all the time that people of color cannot be authentically conservative.
Or if they are conservative, they can't be authentically black.
Or brown.
Or
Yeah.
potato. It's a nice
Weird how
russet
that
brown color.
works, right?
Yeah. Almost like they're racist.
No. What?
All right, so that is enough of serious news, because
Yeah, because that was super serious.
that
Um,
is, well, yeah,
Nerd stuff now.
nerd stuff now, yo. I
And
don't
I,
have.
I really have no idea where you're going with this. So,
All right, so the primary thing I wanted to talk about, honestly, was just I just wanted to talk a bit about like the state of the Star Wars and Star Trek franchises, because of course Star Wars is suffering. Is suffering from.
speaking of free bleeders, they're
I'm gonna.
like bleeding fans right
Okay,
now.
okay, I didn't know where you were going with that. I'm like, what?
Sorry.
What?
Thought it was obvious.
No, but anyway, yes, they are hemorrhaging. They are definitely hemorrhaging fans. But of course, because the Star Wars franchise is in very bad shape, because The Last Jedi went over very badly. Um,
And for anyone interested, we have like a 2-hour video where we debate the pros and cons of that movie, and you want to see it because we're just super, super like entertaining. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking
yeah,
for.
right. That's the word you were looking for. And of course, dealing with the whole Solo flop. Of course, Star Wars is trying to get itself
Recalibrated.
recalibrated, reoriented, something like that. And meanwhile, with the Star Trek franchise, of course, with the lukewarm reception that Discovery has received, I mean, it's received fairly decently, but it's definitely lukewarm among more diehard fans, I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of that's what I'm picking up,
Like
but
people, like you could tell, like people aren't excited for it. But not only that, but I believe that there's news that Chris Pine, the new Captain Kirk, is out for a new Star Trek movie. Um, and in addition, they also had managed to get Chris Hemsworth back, but he's also out. And then on top of that, CBS is being sued for plagiarism over Star Trek
what?
Discovery, because apparently it seems they stole ideas, but possibly they are accused of stealing ideas wholesale from a small indie game that came out a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, I
For the
remember
show.
that bus.
And they are now getting sued by the creator of that game, and things are looking very bad for the Star Trek franchise, honestly.
Right, yeah. I think we actually talked about that a couple years ago. We
Did
might
we?
have been on live stream at the time,
I
but it
don't
seems like
remember.
it came up.
Because it might have been familiar, but it didn't really ring any bells, so I didn't like. So I'm just
There
treating
was
it as
something
news.
about the game and the new show and how there was some drama. What
Because I
did you
mean,
think of Pine and Pine as a and Cumberbatch? It was Cumberbatch as Khan. What did you
yeah,
think of that?
I actually haven't watched Into Darkness or Beyond, so
I
because
think I watched Into Darkness.
I'm not super interested in new Star Trek. I mean, I mean, Abrams Kelvinverse timeline is okay, but it's just not like something that's like oh, I'm so excited to see Star Trek because well, and partially because it doesn't really feel like Star Trek. And then you get
Yeah.
this, and then you get Discovery, like changing the aesthetics of Star Trek completely just 10 years before the original series, and that's kind of weird and bizarre. And at least because at least the Abrams Trek has been relatively faithful visually. Um,
Yeah.
but
The
it's just
last big news I remember about Star Trek was oh geez. The gay dude. It was the gay dude, right?
maybe that's really vague though, and you're gonna have to be more specific before I can go on.
It was the character who wasn't gay who then was gay. And there's like all this effort. I didn't care because it's really not in my wheelhouse.
I feel like I know what you're talking about, but it's not ringing enough bells for me to actually
Speaking of the
pursue the
gays,
line.
who still aren't in their concentration camps, by the way, um,
We already discussed that on the last topic.
I I had to unfollow a few pages, and Screen Rant was one of them because they daily post about gay Elsa.
Ah, yes, that
Yeah,
aspect. Oh,
like
yeah.
there's a rumor that Elsa might have a same sex love interest, blah blah blah, and then it's like, oh gosh,
Right, great, thanks.
stop
Thank you for
trying
making
so
me.
hard. Like, okay, gay Elsa, James Gunn should be rehired. Batista said blah 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 some stupid crap about something else, and then somebody else said that Logan was a shitty movie. We get it. Just post it again tomorrow because we all know you're gonna. Anyhow, I mean, these are the kinds of publications that put out news about stuff like Star Trek.
Yes, but in this case though, I just wanted to bring this up just because it's kind of bothering me because if you really notice, it feels like a lot of these like classic franchises seem to be kind of slowly burning to the ground.
Right?
um,
Yeah. Get woke, go broke.
Like it's really funny. It's really funny too because if you really think about it, franchises like Star Wars and Star Trek really should be like a treasure trove of creative ideas and stories and ways that you can grow and expand these universes and keep them
Yeah.
compelling and interesting. In no small part because you have, millions of fans out there who are willing to eat this stuff up, you know. I'm actually
Right.
one of them.
That's kind of the blessing and the curse, though. Like, you have this built in fan base, which is the blessing.
Mhm.
Um, but because you have this built in fan base, when they try to begin to wedge things in here and there and force changes, the built in fan base doesn't like it.
Mhm.
So you're really kind of playing to the wrong audience there.
Especially when it's done clumsily too, you know. There are plenty of things I think that people would be willing to accept, and it's just like, but because it's always done in incredibly awkward and ham-fisted manners and so forth, it ends up just alienating more people and reducing enthusiasm, and thus rather diminishing box office returns.
Mm-hmm.
Returning box office diminishes. Anyway, yeah, because and
Wait
I
to
don't
see
know.
the words.
On some level, though, I do find it like incredibly frustrating. Like on the one hand, it's almost kind of freeing to kind of just be like, yeah, I don't care anymore. In a way, just because it's like it's like, oh, I don't have to be outraged about this. That's nice. But on the other hand, of course, being someone who loves both Star Wars and Star Trek, it's very disappointing to see this sort of thing happening. To see that rather than creating something that's truly interesting and truly compelling and truly like builds off of the universe, they're instead creating kind of just boring shit. And that's at bare minimum. At worst, they're creating actual bad content. That's actually like kind of chipping away at the foundations of what these franchises mean, because it's like, say with
Yeah.
Star Trek, like a lot of people think that, well, Star Trek wouldn't survive in the 21st century. There has to be drama, and there has to be violence, and there has to be sex. Um, but I would argue that that's not necessarily the case. I think that there are lots of people out there who still have an
Right.
appetite for
N-
exploration
That
and the
doesn't
unknown.
really play to Star Trek strengths.
No, it does not. I think there are plenty of people out there who have an appetite to see, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. And I think that if you do it right, and maybe get rid of some of the camp and the cheese that accompanied the early seasons of every single Star Trek series, um, I think that you would discover that there's a lot to be found there. And I mean, there's definitely room for there to be like more. There's definitely room to be that for there to be like more mature content in there, of course. I mean, the most popular Star Trek movie is The Wrath of Khan. The Wrath of Khan is really a very personal. Is a very personal drama. That actually involves violence. Now, it's not super violent or anything, but it actually involves like real violence, and it involves like real stakes and whatnot. And Spock dies, of course. Um, just taking that into consideration, it's like it's not like you can't translate that into like more modern stories and more modern storytelling. But the fact
Yeah.
that Star Trek has kind of just basically been turned into low value action schlock, it's depressing. To for lack of a better word, it's kind of depressing to see that. And with Star Wars has less been. I think Star Wars has less been hurt by like sort of like that whole action adventure premise being done away with. Though I would say the Last Jedi didn't do a very good job with the premise. Um, there was lots of action, but there wasn't very much adventure. I'd say. Um,
That's actually a good point because the action that we did get didn't feel like it was going anywhere. And in
it
an
didn't.
adventure, you have to feel like you're going somewhere.
Yep. Um, but its bigger problem, of course, is the whole get woke go broke thing. Where it's like they like especially the Last Jedi and with Solo too. They rammed in a lot of sort of leftist SJW esque concepts and talking points. Some explicitly, some many more implicitly, and it
Right.
turned a lot
I
of
did
people off
not
to the
see
film.
that, but excuse me. Trying to play off what's his face, the smooth, um, his friend. Jeez, I
Lando,
can't right now. Hmm.
Lando,
Lando Clarician. That's
Calrissian.
the name.
I don't know who
Um.
Clarissian is, but Calrissian is definitely
Oh,
a.
okay. Whatever. Um. Clarician. Yeah, that's sorry. I'm a little buzzed.
A little.
Calrissian. Lando. Um. Again, this was on Screen Rant like forever that he was going to be pansexual, and that was like the big thing, and you
Yeah.
had to accept it, or you were just, you were a dumb hater.
Yep.
You were talking about cheese. It still blows my mind that Q in Star Trek is Discord in My Little Pony. And he's almost the exact same character in both of those shows. It's amazing and I love it.
I mean, that's what he does best. John Delancey, he does that very, very well. That sort of character. But yeah, so I don't know. But on the other hand, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that these franchises will burn a bit. See if we can't clear away some of the dead wood and the dry leaves at the bottom of the forest floor, and make room for actual new life.
You know, it's weird. The tree hugging liberals really don't want you to do that, but it's very healthy for the forest
Mm-hmm.
to do control burns every now and then.
Yep. That
So
way you don't have what
burn it
California
all,
suffered
burn
from
it
this
to the
summer,
ground.
which of
Right?
course is
Yeah.
massive, massive wildfires after from because like these areas haven't had like a natural burn in the past 40 or 50 years.
I actually
So,
live next to national forests, so
hmm
every now and then they'll control burn that, and you know, it's like that's actually kind of nice.
hmm and then you get room for new life and new plants. And I mean, the worst case scenario, of course, is that like Star Wars and Star Trek burn down completely. But that even might
Right.
be better than getting bad content that no one really wants. Because the very minimum, you want people to come away with, good feelings about the franchise. But of course, I don't think it'll ever burn away completely because even if the corporations fail us, you still have the
Right.
fans. I mean, I shared all
Well, and
those.
that's where I think is the saving grace is that if it all burns to the ground, okay, let's just imagine this apocalyptic world of Star Trek becoming somehow culturally irrelevant because of their poor decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then no longer is that attractive to the people who would use it to sort of um, try and evangelize to the built-in fan base.
Mm-hmm.
You would only have people interested in that franchise at that point who actually loved it and
Yeah.
wanted to bring it back to its former glory. So
Mm-hmm.
that might not be a bad thing.
Yep, and the same with Star Wars. And at the very least, you're going to have like amateur filmmakers and so forth still making, fan films and so forth, or making fan stories and whatnot. I of course shared
Yeah.
all those Star Wars fan films. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. Um,
I think it was last year. Was that you had a post and there
two
were
posts,
several different clips. Ow. Ow.
and this is why drunk
My
people shouldn't
bad.
talk.
I just elbowed my china cabinet. Way to go, me.
Yes, but yeah, last year, yeah, I shared two posts, each with five different fan films in them. Just some absolutely phenomenal work done by complete amateurs, making their own Star Wars fiction. And of course, Star Trek has had the same thing going on for years too. Now, of course, that was all soured back in 2016 with the Axanar lawsuit and the subsequent issuing of the fan film guidelines by Paramount and CBS,
Maybe
which
that
were
was the thing that we discussed on live stream.
it might have been, but of course with those, but no, then of course they released those odious those extremely odious and restrictive fan film guidelines. That well, they haven't really curbed creativity. They've curbed how creative you can be, which is very unfortunate. And that's a huge part also of what has soured a lot of the fans on Star Trek is the fact that Paramount and CBS, being two different companies that control different rights in Star Trek,
Yeah.
just tried to crush Axanar like that. I mean, say what you will about about copyright holders enforcing their copyrights, which they have every right to do, and say what you will about Alec Peters maybe getting a little egotistical during the lawsuit battle. But at the end of the day, the studios made a huge mistake because what they had there basically was built-in PR. They had built-in,
Right.
enthusiasm being generated and no cost to them at all.
Yeah.
Every thousands of people supported Axanar financially, myself included, in fact. And they came along and they just undercut fan productions at the knees, and it's just sad.
Right. I think you
Um,
actually did mention the built-in PR aspect of that 2 years ago.
Maybe I did. I don't remember this conversation at all. I'm not gonna lie. I know we talked about it. I just don't remember the
I remember
conversation.
it, which is weird because this is, like I said, this is not even my wheelhouse. I mean, Star
Hmm
Trek is nowhere close to where I normally spend my, effort. But I am at best like a, sort of casual fan.
hmm
Um, but I do remember this conversation and you saying the same things 2 years ago.
Well, since that video doesn't exist any longer, it's a good thing then that we're talking about it now. But
It's
But
still in my head though.
but yeah, but I mean Axanar. I mean, by the way, I actually shared Prelude to Axanar on the website, and a quick little post on my birthday, though it's dated the 9th for some weird reason. I mean, I shared it on the 8th, but it thinks it's the 9th. I guess it was set to GMT or something. Um, but yeah, I decided to share Axanar because Axanar is probably one of the best fan films ever made. It has the look, it has the feel, and it's about war. I mean, that's the thing. It's about war. It's not about typical Star Trek. We found this nebula today, sort of thing. But it's about a war, but it feels like Star Trek, and it looks like Star Trek too. It's set before the original series, but it has the original series aesthetic, right? Right down to the design of the uniforms and the designs of the ships, and it's like this is what people are clamoring for. And if CBS had been smart, they would have been like, man, people are really excited for this Axanar thing. Maybe we should get these people to do our thing for us. Instead of, I'm not going to lie, I feel like CBS actually stole some ideas from Axanar for Discovery. Just because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
based on, because it has the same basic premise, the war, the war between the Klingons and the Federation and all that. And,
They
um,
wanted the content. They just didn't want to pay the people.
uh-huh,
They really should have put some of those people on their team, though.
uh-huh.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a headliner, but you need them on your team.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
anyway,
That
I
was
think that.
that was just dumb.
Oh yeah, they've made a terrible terrible mistake. Anyway, all right. So I think it's a good point to end the episode. I'm gonna have to be up early tomorrow, and well, the amount of sleep I'm gonna get is dwindling by the minute. There is one thing I did actually want to bring up, and that's something we're probably going to discuss next week because something I've been wanting to do actually is I want to see if we can't get it like a little bit because we all know how I'm like kind of obsessed when it comes to like music. When it comes to like good music or music that I find appealing. Um, and part of me kind of wants to see if we can't like get a periodic conversation going on about like a particular about like music, like some sort of music. It doesn't necessarily have to be like video game music, but that's probably what we're going to discuss next week because I discovered a playlist on YouTube of an album of Final Fantasy arrangements.
Oh yeah.
Because Final Fantasy music, the Final Fantasy franchise probably has some of the best music in all of the video game industry. Nobuo Uematsu is frankly a musical genius by every count. He's created some of the most iconic video game themes out there. Um, like if you hear like the opening bars of One Winged Angel, you'll recognize it instantly if you've heard it before, because it's just that distinct and memorable. But I discovered this, a playlist of this arrangement album that came out like back in like 2000 or 2001 or something like that, called Final Fantasy Vocal Collections, Prey, which is basically it takes some classic Final Fantasy themes from the first 6 games, and basically creates vocal arrangements of them. And I kind of just and I want to try to discuss this next week because I want to kind of get your sense of what you think of the music. Because I've been listening to it kind of obsessively for the past for the past few days. I just kind of wanted to get a sense of like what you thought of some of them and if you enjoyed it or whatnot. Because it'll be interesting to get like a perspective of someone who doesn't play video games regularly, let alone the Final Fantasy series at all.
Yeah.
Um,
It's been a long time since I played anything at all. And I kind of want to just because I mean, I do remember that it was fun back when I had the time and the will. Um,
Back when you were
yeah.
young.
It might actually be hilarious to witness.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But you shall see. At any rate, we want to thank you for watching this episode of Nerd Rage. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and a comment down below. Be sure to subscribe for more. There also will be links in the description below. I don't know why my voice decided to do that just now, like I was passing a kidney stone or something, but there we go.
There will be links in the description. Yes, indeed.
Um,
straight down there. And I think everything that I mentioned tonight is different stuff that you wrote over time.
Some of it, anyway. Maybe we should just write things. Anyway, maybe we should make our website a little more active than it is. Anyway, thank you for watching.
I'm going to work on that.
And we will catch you, I guess, next week. Unless we want to make a second episode later this week. No, but...
Maybe sometime around Friday, yeah.
Because we are behind now, and it'd be nice to catch up. Because we are closing in on episode 200. And catching up would be nice because episode 200 is going to fall right around the 5th anniversary of our show.
Oh my gosh, we're 5 years old.
And we're no smarter than when we started. Until next week, everybody.
Good night.
Okay.
I'm so buzzed.
I know. I can tell. It's very obvious. It's very transparent.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes,
I mean, I
well,
haven't eaten anything since 12:30. It's 9:10 right now.
okay, so you've literally sabotaged yourself. You've done this to yourself. That's
And I mean, I was pouring my drink before we ever started.
alcoholism. It's a terrible thing. Anyway,
Whatever. They got the God's honest truth tonight because there was no way I wasn't going to give it to
yeah, right. 'Cause that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen normally.
them. I mean, it does happen, just not usually quite so out there on the nose.
Yeah. I mean, at least that show could have
No
gone
idea
worse.
what kind of image you're going to create for this show.
Oh, I am totally going to be in an SS hat. I am totally going to get an SS hat and Photoshop it on top of my head.
Uh,
And we're going to
we
clone
just
Heinrich Himmler and we're going to party like it's 1939.
put an SS hat on a whiskey bottle. That sums it up.
Yeah, actually, I
Oh,
probably could do that. I just need to like cut out your hair in Photoshop. Well, I use GIMP, free software, but um, but no, I just cut out your hair, put it on a whiskey bottle, put an SS hat on top of that, and then put me in an SS hat, and it'll be perfect. Yeah,
On the bridge of the Enterprise.
on the bridge of the Enterprise.
uh, Shut up, Wesley.
And there's that. Oh my gosh, we haven't even talked about Will Wheaton's social media dramas, have we?
Oh, didn't he quit the social media?
He quit the Twitter. He went to some other social media website, and promptly got kicked off of that for being a dickhead. Because he's Will Wheaton, and Will Wheaton can't help but be, can't help but be a dickhead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the really funny bit, is the fact that he's just such a colossal asshole.
Nobody likes him.
Nobody likes him. It's like, are you sure that Wesley Crusher wasn't typecast to you and just wasn't like an extension of your personality?
I think he was probably like hanging out near the set one day, and somebody was like, "This dude is such a douche. We should write him into the show as a douche." And then they did. And it's just funny because Patrick Stewart's like the nicest dude on the planet, and he can't stand it.
Shut up, Will.
It's hilarious.
Can you believe we're coming to a time where eventually we're coming up really, really quickly on a time where there will be no Patrick Stewart in the world and no William Shatner?
Oh my gosh. Like, ugh.
Like, both of those men are old now. Like,
It still bums me out that there's no Christopher Lee.
yeah. Yeah, and
But Patrick Stewart's going to be huge. Like, that's...
oh yeah, to even bring up the fact that Patrick Stewart is returning to Star Trek. But kind of like bringing, Billy D. Williams, back as Lando Calrissian for Episode 9. It really just feels like a desperate last gasp on the part of, the producers of each of their
Right?
respective franchises to try and revive flagging interest.
Maybe there is one last gasp of nostalgia that we can just pull out of this.
It's like, there's nothing wrong with nostalgia, but you need something good in there with it.
I would much rather have had abject nostalgia in the last movie, like we did in The Force Awakens, than what we got.
Yes, nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like, nostalgia doesn't hurt. Nostalgia is a big
Nostalgia's
part of...
100% better than pandering bullcrap.
it's certainly, certainly what made Rogue One so appealing to me,
Yeah.
I can't get over the fact that when it comes to, like, the different movies, I love Rogue One, and I'm just lukewarm on everything else. I still have to see Solo, too. But it's just like I'm not sure I want to. Like I'm
I
going to
haven't seen that
eventually.
either. I did love The Force Awakens. I know that it was very nostalgic, but I
Yeah,
loved
I
it.
don't.
And
I
I
don't
think I
think.
loved it more because it did rely so heavily on nostalgia.
And I don't think. I agree. I don't think The Force Awakens is such a bad movie. And because The Force Awakens had all that great setup and everything, and like it had all these unanswered questions, and you're just like, man, what's the next installment going to be? And then Ryan Johnson rolls in.
Right? Ruin Johnson. And then
Right.
he's like, Ray's the daughter of drunks and nobody's special and everything sucks. And then here's an awkward romantic moment that nobody ever wanted. Yay!
And I don't even think Finn wanted it. I
I
was like, hey,
mean,
get over it.
he almost looked like just weirded. I mean,
He was
seriously though,
confused.
somebody needs to take Finn's face from that scene and hashtag Me Too on it, because that right there, like he didn't want it, he wasn't asking for it, but he got it anyways. Me too.
Yep, I love it. Like everybody, everybody talks about the kiss, and I'm just like, I'm waiting for him, like what's gonna happen here? It's like and then I just see him, and he's just like stunned, looking at her, like is she stupid or something?
What in tarnation?
More like, what the fuck, bitch?
I seriously need a Me Too Finn now. Like I need it. I need this meme in my life.
My
There
mom
is
always
certain.
told me never to get tied up with these Asian bitches, and she was right.
Oh my god. Uh, I should probably eat more cashews because I'm
Yeah,
getting
probably.
super buzzed.
Yeah, I can tell. You're gonna cross that line soon if you don't start diluting some of that booze.
Uh,
Mr.
okay.
B double O Z E. Anyway,
Nuts and liquor, they always go together.
that's what they say at the gay bar.
I wouldn't know.
Neither would I. But I'm just taking a guess there that that's probably something that you would hear.
Oh my gosh. Uh,